All right. So I think almost accidentally we've been talking about finances a lot on this channel and just like, uh,
Finances.
yeah,
Finances are real when you run a business.
yeah, they are. Yeah,
You
it's
gotta think
something
about
to.
it. You
Yeah,
can't just
I've
hope it's
spent.
gonna work out. You gotta keep track of your money.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You know, when you're first getting into business, it can be a little bit scary, and it's always a little bit confusing, or at least it was for me. You know, I was coming out of college right into owning my own photography business, and I think as I was starting out, it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was kind of scrappy and I was like figuring it all out. Worked part-time jobs, all that stuff. But as you kind of go on, I think that you need to figure out a way to pay yourself, and this goes
Right.
for pretty much any freelancer. So
Right.
what I
Yeah, because
like,
if you're
yeah,
not getting paid, you don't really have a job. It's just fun. So you got to make sure
exactly.
you're getting paid. Like that's the
Yeah.
most important
So
part
so
of
I guess
running your business.
yeah. The first thing you want to do is sort of figure out how much you need to charge to make ends meet. So basically, if your burn rate is like for example like $3,000 a month, then you're gonna have to make $36,000, but then you have to account for about 25% of that going into
Taxes.
taxes.
Gotta
So
pay the man.
so yeah, you're gonna have to book.
Plus, you also have to think of all your actual business expenses other than paying the man.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
like, you're gonna have to have cameras and computers, and I don't know, you're gonna have some
Yeah.
sort of uploading service and websites. All that stuff adds up.
Yeah, but I guess the first step is just to get that monthly budget out and just figure out how much you're actually going to have to charge, how many jobs you're going to have to work to just
Yeah,
even
because
make
that's the thing. Like,
ends
is
meet.
if like you do all your numbers and you're like, okay, I want to do 20 jobs this year, and I gotta make sure I charge $3,000, but your market maybe doesn't justify $3,000 weddings. You can't just be like, I'm gonna do $3,000 and then you're gonna be good.
Yeah,
You have to like
the,
you
the
have to
market
adjust to the market, and then you have to try to shoot more if
the,
that's
the
what
market
your
is
market.
always right. If they're not booking you at that price, it's not you can't be mad at anybody. It's what everybody else is saying you're worth, and it's the market who just is determining
Right.
what you're worth
So it's
basically.
important to figure out what like the average going price is for your photography services in your market. Because once you figure that out, then
Yeah.
you can figure out how much of that you need to do to pay for all the things you need to
Yeah.
stay alive. You know?
Yeah, I would look at I would do a competitor analysis, look at photographers of your skill set of maybe
Right.
the same style, and
Yeah,
see how
maybe just
much
go to
the
Google and type in like wherever you're from, like Phoenix wedding photographer, or like
Denver headshot
yeah,
photographer.
or
There.
yeah, Austin families portraits, stuff like that, and then you'll be able to figure out what other people are in that same space that you're in,
Yeah,
and see what they're charging.
yeah. See what they're charging, do all the math, add everything up, and look at it realistically. Are you going to be burnt out if you're doing 100 family sessions a year to do?
Maybe not. There's some people that could just do that all the time, and
Yeah.
they
Are
just love
you
it.
are you going to be burnt out at 20 weddings? Are you going to be burnt out at
Right.
30 weddings? Are you going to be burnt out at 40 weddings? And so I feel like
Yes,
your
you
needs
are.
come in your second phase of business though. So this
Right.
first phase of business is typically just grinding it out and just
Just trying to make stuff.
just trying to make it, trying to make the money, and then your portfolio will gradually kind of be tailored more towards your style the more you work.
I know, like when I got started, I had another job, and this was like my secondary job that I would do on the nights and the weekends
Yeah.
as I built the portfolio because I needed the actual job to survive at the time. And then, like, once I was ready to make that leap and I had saved enough money and I had enough camera equipment that I thought I could do it, I left the job and I went and did this full time. So, like, that's something else that you should consider. And another thing worth considering is if you get into weddings, like you're not gonna get paid tomorrow. You're gonna book a wedding for
Yeah.
next year, and you're gonna have to,
Yeah.
spin your wheels for a while.
Yeah, I mean, take a whatever kind of deposit you can in the beginning, and you're probably just gonna have to use that towards gear or something though if
Yeah,
you're
you're
just
probably
starting
gonna
out.
on your website. And
Yeah,
just
but
getting
it
things
can be a
going.
huge asset to have another job as you're starting out, and I think the biggest thing though is to not let your expenses go up too much. Just kind of stay at the level that you're at or whatever, because the more your expenses go up, the harder it is to kind of stay afloat when everything's kind of uncertain in the beginning. So
Right.
if you kind of have have low expenses, if you really want to do this, my suggestion would be to go live with like 5 roommates.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Try to get it
yeah.
cheap.
Yeah, go live
to
with
get
five
started.
people,
Yeah.
eat peanut butter and jellies and just, spend what you can on gear. And if that's your dream, maybe just, live extremely frugal and just try to figure it out if you're not at a point where you have a ton of savings. So I think, that's something to keep in mind too, is just how much, you
And if
kind
you
of
have
want to
like a
hustle in the
primary
beginning.
job, and you can
Yeah.
grind out the secondary thing, like I did that for a while, like you just run around and do headshots on the
Mhm.
weekends, and that would make you extra money to help pay for your gear while your other job's keeping you alive. Because the gear in photography is probably the biggest expense. Like
Yeah.
it's easy to spend
So
$10,000 on cameras and computers. Like that's easy.
yeah. If I'm somebody who has a part-time job right now, or maybe I'm working full-time and doing headshots on the weekend, how do I know when I can quit?
I mean, for me, like everybody's gonna. It's not gonna be like everybody's gonna be the same. For some
Yeah.
people, I'm gonna be like, I'm good, I'm gonna go. But for me, like I needed to know that I had enough money saved that I could pay the bills for X number of months without any money coming in, so that I wouldn't be stressed a lot. Because if I didn't have enough money looking forward, I'd be constantly stressed and be fearful that I'm not making it and stuff. So for me, I knew it made more sense for me to have more money going out into the future, so I wouldn't.
Yeah. So kind of going
But
into
some other
this,
people might not. That might not be the case. They might
yeah.
feel like I got the gear, and I'm sick of this job, and I'm gonna go do it. And maybe that'll work out. But yeah, so it just
Yeah.
kind of depends. But I feel like if you could prepare more, and that's always
Yeah, try to save up 6 months of expenses at
yeah. If you
least.
could do it, that would always make it easier.
Yeah, make it a lot easier on yourself. If you have a beginning to a business and you have the portfolio, it's also going to be a lot easier. But yeah, kind of going into phase two here. So phase two, you have sort of constant income coming in, and you're doing pretty good. You've paid your taxes from the previous year. Maybe you're in like year two or year one at this point still. But I think it's important at this point to figure out how to pay yourself. So one thing I didn't personally do for a long time was budget. I just kind of I was still in like sort of the scrappy mentality of
Right.
like I don't know, just not really managing my finances. I
I think
want
it's important to like get
yeah
a budget and to like stick to it and be like, all right, this is how much money I
yeah
spent in the past, like last month, the month before that, the month before that.
yeah
I spent this around this amount. I'm gonna budget for that for each category
exactly
and try to live within
yeah
that so that later I'm not
yeah and
scrambling and
that's
wishing I had
yeah
more that I don't have.
when I was like 24 getting into this, when you're 24 and you're getting you get paid like $3,000 for a wedding, it's easy to kind of just get really excited about it and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, like the longer I've done it though, I think the smartest way I found to pay myself is to just pay myself monthly. So I just have an automatic bank
Right.
transfer every month. I try to leave as much money as I can in my business account. So if something does come along that I need to write off, then I can write that off on my taxes too. So
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Yeah, that makes
yeah,
good
so
sense. And I
yeah,
do the same thing. And
yeah,
that's how my tax accountant says to do it too. You got to draw money once or twice a month at least to stay alive. So I'm always budgeting for that, planning that I need to have this much money in the business account to pay myself for the next however many months, so that I can keep getting a paycheck. Because that's the thing is like when you have a job, the paycheck is always guaranteed, so to speak. Like you're working
yeah.
for them, they're gonna
And,
pay
and
you.
in a
But
lot
like
of markets, this is
when
very
you're
seasonal, and so you might
yeah, when
only
you're doing
be
photography, sometimes there's long
yeah,
periods where you just don't get jobs,
yeah. I mean,
and yeah, it's seasonal sometimes,
yeah.
especially with weddings.
I had a crazy month. A couple of years ago, I made $19,000 in
Yeah,
September.
sometimes you'll have a month where you're like, whoa,
But then there's also months. There's many months
where
where
you
I
don't make
make
anything.
zero.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah,
like, oh man, it's a good thing I made $19,000.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
important to remember to save that money, and like so when you're having that long slump of downtime, you're not starving. And
yeah. Hundred.
you're not like regretful towards your photography business. You don't want to be like, because that could cause you to want to leave and quit it and be like, oh, this isn't making me enough money, or this is I was doing so well then and I'm not doing well now. It's if you think like that over time, it's going to
Yeah,
be a detriment. It's better
yeah.
to try to like remember that you did really well in September and don't spend all the money in September. Kind of spend what you need still and try to stay slow and steady.
Yeah, and so figuring out how much to pay yourself every month, I think, is pretty straightforward for a lot of people. But for maybe just like a baseline, add up all of your personal expenses and your business expenses too. So like you really want to know like I pay myself personally, like kind of separate from all my business
Right.
stuff, but you really want to know exactly where everything's going every month because you
Yeah,
could,
I mean, do you need
yeah,
Lightroom? You're gonna have to pay for Lightroom. Do you have a computer
yeah,
that you're buying from Apple that you're paying on a monthly plan? Like, you want to put all that stuff into business expenses and know how much that is, so
yeah,
you know how much to pay
and it
yourself,
can
and
be,
then how many jobs to
yeah.
get. If you do all these things correctly,
Business creep can be similar to lifestyle creep too. So, well, like,
oh, this would make my life easier. That would make my life easier.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna get
So,
this service and
so
add
it's
that
really easy
service.
to add a service and just kind of
Right.
forget about it. It's like, oh, it's $20 a month,
Right, and now I don't have
but
to do that anymore, so it's
but
worth it.
$20 a month is going to be $240 a
Yeah,
year,
so if you're
and you're
talking
gonna,
$250 a year,
yeah, and
then you have
that's,
to
yeah,
reevaluate it.
you're gonna have to earn that money
Right, that's
somehow,
another job maybe.
Yeah, it's like just another thing that you have to kind of worry
So
about.
there's always like trade-offs with that kind of stuff. But some services for me are worth it. Like I pay a tax accountant and a bookkeeper because I'm just not good at keeping track of. I mean,
Yeah.
to me it's important to budget and to know where my money's going, but I'm not good at at keeping the actual records for the government. So I have these other people do it because you can't screw up on stuff like that, you know? So like there's some services I feel like are worth it, but then there's other services like, oh, we're gonna post for you on Instagram or something, and we'll do this like however many times a month, and you'll have to pay us X number of dollars.
Yeah.
You could do that
It
yourself,
seems
you
like
know?
I'm getting 10 emails a day for services being offered from
Yeah,
people
a lot of
from
people just
Google.
want to they
Yeah.
want to run service businesses.
Yeah. Let's talk about what services we kind of love. I don't know if I'll go into specifics here, but um,
Lightroom, I mean, I definitely
yeah,
give Adobe money
yeah.
every month for sure.
Yeah, to me, a service that's really worth my hard-earned money is just a service that replaces something that doesn't exactly bring me joy. So what brings me joy is shooting, editing,
Right.
delivering beautiful photos to clients, and
And then there's some services though that aren't that are just like required, like a website or Lightroom,
yeah,
or that you just need that to operate. But
yeah, 100%. But yeah, I feel like anything that helps me automate a task where I didn't get anything out of it, and it was just kind of like a repetitive thing. It's like what you would want, or it's like a task that a robot would be better at, So,
yeah,
anything like that. So, it's like stuff like that. I can name like just off the top of my head, e-contracts. You know, what else here? Trying to think.
we use a service called Honeybook that does all of our online booking, and it keeps track of all the money and passes it around to all our accounts and stuff. And we actually don't pay anything for that, but because we were grandfathered in from when they started. But like, I would pay for that still if that was a monthly service thing, because it's so important to my business. I feel like we're ingrained in that Honeybook system for sure.
Yeah, you like HoneyBook a lot, obviously.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's great. I mean, if we had to pay for it, we might be a little more strict, or maybe not strict, but more like exacting in what it does and what it's for and stuff.
How
But
much is it a month? Do you know?
I don't. But I don't know how much it costs. But we love using it. We think it's great. Like it's really helpful to us. And I feel like there's some services like that we would require to run our business. But then there's some other ones like you're saying, like that can be automated, like the
Yeah.
e-contracts. Or
Yeah, get me out of invoicing, get me out of like follow-up emails if I can automate some of
yeah, you
those.
can send some like that stuff helps for sure. I
Yeah,
feel like I do some of that stuff, and then like what I do is at the end of every year, usually in December, like the first couple weeks in December, I audit everything I'm spending money on and look and see if there's better ways to do it for free, or if I really need that still, or if it makes sense for me to keep spending money on that, because
yeah,
you don't want to like be spending money on services that you might not need anymore, because that's more money you could make and less hustling you got to do to get more jobs, you know.
100%.
So you want to try and run pretty lean, I
Yeah,
feel, all the time.
yeah. Just for a basis for anybody looking to maybe automate some stuff. For me, I spend about $50 a month and to automate, various tasks through like,
You use Zapier.
yeah, I use
Zapier,
Zapier.
yeah.
Zapier
It's
is
kind
a
of
good
like
one.
if this and that for businesses.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I use Zapier too, but I use the free account because I only do 5 zaps a month, or less than 5 a month. So for me, I use it, but I
Yeah.
still use it on the free account.
Yeah, I connect it to my Apple Calendar. Like I always have gone through Apple
Yeah, that's
Calendar,
helpful.
so it's like I don't have to calendar anything. I can, ask Suri like, am I booked for a wedding this day? And
Yeah, right.
I don't have to go back through to my computer, through all the
Right.
things on my phone, stuff like that. So,
The other one
Zapier,
that I do is
yeah,
Dropbox. I pay for Dropbox every year.
yeah,
It's helpful. I don't really use it to deliver pictures to clients or anything, but I use it for like external uses, like
Like backups.
a little bit of backups, a little bit of like saving stuff off my website, stuff like that for those kinds of backups. But also for like sharing photos with vendors or clients, friends, stuff like that. That might get me more business in the future. I feel like I use Dropbox a lot for marketing in that way. 'Cause people want those pictures, and Dropbox is so convenient. So yeah, I do pay for Dropbox.
Yeah, I think another point just to touch on is getting into photography. You should have realistic expectations of what you need to be happy in life. So, for example, if you're not going to be happy not driving a BMW that's going to cost you $600 a month in a lease, or a Tesla or something, then um, to make up that much more money might not be realistic for your market. Even, I mean, I don't know. Everybody's a little bit different, but
And
I
for
think,
some people, like having that Tesla is more important than maybe eating really healthy food, or like, you know what I mean. So they'll be willing to compromise
yeah,
somewhere else in
everybody
their
has their
life to
hobby.
have that.
I'll never criticize anybody for their hobby. You know, after I got into photography, because
Yeah,
I've been so into it and spent so much money
yeah,
into.
photography's expensive.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, I think like just monitoring your own personal expenses is probably something that's necessary if you're an
And
entrepreneur
that's
to a
something
point.
that you can even automate, and you can automate it for free. I use mint.com, and it'll, if I make transactions over and over again, I can automatically have it assigned to whatever category. And anytime a transaction comes in from that same place, it automatically assigns it, which is really helpful for me to keep track of my budgeting and stuff. But I don't actually use it for my bookkeeping because I have a bookkeeper who does all that. I just use it to look at the graphs and to be
Yeah.
like, oh man, we spent too much
Yeah,
money
it's
this month on
important
computers,
to
or we don't
outsource
have
things
money for that
that you
camera.
don't love, or stuff that you don't know very, or like you don't want to take too much time
But it's
learning
also
about.
important to keep track of your finances. Like I do hire both of these people, the tax accountant and the bookkeeper, to keep track of it like on a professional level.
Yeah,
But I still look at the reports. I still use mint.com. My bookkeeper sends me a monthly profit and loss. So I'm always keeping track of that, so I know if I'm making enough money or if I need to spend less money on equipment, or so, you know what I mean? Because if you just outsource all that stuff to somebody and you don't keep track of it, you could end up in a lot of debt in a year or two or less, and then you and wonder how come your business isn't working right. So yeah, I feel like you have to have reins on it, but maybe hire somebody to keep professional track of it if it's not something you want to do.
yeah, I have an accountant too.
Yeah.
I don't do the monthly like profit and loss or anything, but you know, I have a generally pretty good idea of where I'm spending money, what I'm doing there. Especially, so like once you start just budgeting out your personal stuff, then
Right.
you know the business stuff kind of just goes along with it. You start to get better with the business
Yeah,
stuff
you
too.
kind of think of it in the same way, like, because that's how I started. It was with Mint.com for my personal finances, like a bunch of years ago.
Yeah,
And like once I got comfortable doing that, like I would just do it like once a week. It would just be like doing laundry. I gotta go check my transactions. You know what I mean? Make sure
yeah,
everything's right. And then like you just get accustomed to that, and then you know where you're spending your money, where maybe you're screwing up, where you could be doing better, and then you can just implement it on the next week. And then if you're still bad, you could change stuff. And that way, if you've got your finger on the pulse always, it's easier to kind of make changes and to do the right thing more often.
yeah. What are some fun cheap lenses?
Cheap lenses.
Yeah, so like maybe I want to buy a lens, but I'm like, you know, worried that it might cost too much or something. I think feel like this is kind of in the same realm. So instead of buying a crazy expensive lens, is there like a vintage lens I could buy instead? Is there like
Yeah, just thinking of other ways to save money. Like sometimes you don't need to go out and buy the newest camera to get yourself like something new and artistic and creative that makes better pictures. Like you could think about stuff like that. And if you've already, but the way I like to think of it is like over the course of the year, I have X number of dollars that I can spend on cameras, X number of dollars I can spend on computers, and it's cumulative for the whole year. So like let's say this year I had $2,000 on computers, and so if something broke on the computer, I'd have to fix that. But $2,000 isn't really enough to upgrade in our world to a new computer. So I have to let that build up for a couple years if I want to get a new computer. So that keeps me from every year buying a new computer. You know what I mean? So that's how I use budgeting to help kind of control my spending in a way.
yeah,
So the same thing with cameras. Like I'll do the same thing. I have X number of dollars a year that I can spend on cameras. So if I don't have the money then looking at the really expensive lens doesn't even matter because I don't have the money. So I'm just going to forget about that, and I'm going to try to find other ways to be creative or other ways to push my photography, because there's a lot of ways that you can do it without equipment. Like you can get out at a different time of day, you could go with new subjects, you could try to make like street photography if you're a wedding photographer, or vice versa. Like you could just go and do a totally different genre. There's so many things you could do to spark more creativity that doesn't really cost anything.
For sure. I think I think it's cool to think about, like, here's kind of how I think about finances, right? So I think finances are something that's necessary, but I don't care too much about everything. Like I just want to kind of live normal. But I think whenever I've made a financial purchase I regret, it was typically on something that I bought sort of sporadically, and I didn't think it out too much, and I was trying to become, a lot of the time I think it was, I was trying to become more creative through buying this piece of gear or something,
Right.
because a piece of gear is like getting a new car in a way. Like you get a new
Yeah.
car, and like for me at least, I'm excited for about 6 months, and then after that, then
If that,
yeah,
yeah.
if that, then you're just used to it. And so like the life of being excited about a lens is like a month. So
Yeah.
I'm excited
Yeah,
about
it's
it
usually
for
I get stoked about it after 3 or 4 shoots, and then I've done what I could do with it that I wanted to try, and then I'm
yeah,
like, well, is this any better than what I already have? I don't know, maybe, maybe not.
yeah,
So
but
like but I think that having the budget kind of limits me, because I know like, all right, so for this year I have $3,000 for cameras. I can only spend $3,000 on
yeah,
cameras. So generally I won't buy anything until the end of the season unless something breaks that I need, because I don't know if all my cameras are going to make it. So I try to get through my wedding season, with all that money. And then at the end of the, like now, like November, December, I will like sit down and say, okay, I have this much money. Should I try to buy new lenses? Should I upgrade my cameras? Or should I just save that money for next year and let it accumulate to more, so that when that next camera comes out that I really want, I'll have tons of money in the bank and it'll be easy to buy, and I won't have to like wonder where the money's going to come from to make it happen.
yeah. I think I'd rather spend. I'm so happy with my camera and lenses right now that I'd rather spend money that I would spend on a lens towards a trip or something. Like,
Yeah, something like that. Or
yeah,
other things to help your business, like maybe more SEO or a better website or a cooler logo or stuff like that that could help like propel your business.
I've realized pretty recently that you don't need to update your website as much as I was doing though. So like, I feel like there's kind of like a rat race. You're on Instagram, you're looking through maybe other people's photography portfolios and stuff. But if what you're doing is sort of is authentic to you, and you like, your logo, you like your portfolio,
And it's getting you jobs. Like
yeah,
it's getting you paid. Like if it's not working and it's not getting you jobs, then maybe it's time to think of a refresh. But generally, like for me, like every
yeah,
2 or 3 years, I'm on a 2 or 3 year cycle. 10
yeah,
source three.
yeah. I mean, I feel
Literally.
like as wedding photographers, we can kind of get stressed about, are we booking enough? Are we booking enough? Where I've never booked under 20 weddings ever. So it's like I feel like a lot of years I've spent a lot of time being stressed and trying to like just compete with myself almost, and spending a lot of energy on like, oh, I have to do this new website update and stuff, where clients are coming to your website, they're seeing the same thing they booked, however many jobs you booked the year before off that same portfolio. And so
Right.
yeah, I guess I've been taking more time to think about my, like, the artistry in my images, or what I'm trying to
Yeah.
convey in the
But you
photo.
can't let it go too long, because even if the photo's still cool or whatever, trends change in clothing and fashion and hairstyles and all that kind of stuff. So if you let it go too long, people are going to know it's dated. So like I feel like there's a certain period where I'm going to always kind of update my portfolio, my website, but usually it's about every 3 years. And if you do it every year, maybe that's good for you, but maybe like you're saying, you're spinning your wheels a little.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
maybe
thought,
it's a waste of money. Like
yeah,
maybe it's
yeah.
hurting your
I've been thinking a
finances.
lot about yeah. I mean, generally the stuff that I do, like website updates and stuff. Like, I'll switch around like this one little thing. I'll obsess over like one little part of everything, for
Yeah.
for way too long, and then kind of stress myself out. But
But generally you stay with the same service that you pay, right?
Yeah.
So the
I haven't
cost
ever
is pretty
changed.
much the
Yeah,
same.
I've never changed my website or
So
anything.
basically, you don't have any additional cost if you change it or stuff. It's just your time that's being lost. And maybe
Yeah,
if you pay for a logo or a new template or something.
yeah. I think just a logo is a good place to spend money. Like you know, like you don't have to do it every
Well, it's kind
year.
of like the base point of your whole like media branding, right? Like that's
Yeah,
the start of it all.
yeah. I think that's actually one good spot to spend some money. So when I bought my logo, I think I paid about $1,500.
Yeah, so that's a sizable amount of money that people probably don't realize you could spend $1,500 on a
Yeah,
logo.
but it was it's important for me to pay another artist well and stuff too. I
Right, of
found
course. Yeah, you have a higher respect.
yeah, I found a painter that I really liked on Instagram and just kind of reached out, asked if she did any sort of freelance graphic design and stuff, and helped me out with it, and just kind of had a style and stuff that I really liked. So
And
I
unique,
think
because you probably won't
yeah,
make too many for other people, huh?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I think it's cool to be able to pay some artists when you have the budget for it or looking
Yeah,
for
yeah, absolutely. If you got
yeah,
the money,
just
you can
kind of
help them
put it
out.
back
That's
out
so
there.
cool. But I don't feel like that's first year, second year, third year finance kind of stuff. That's like when you're making more money, you got some money in the bank. You're like, you're not worried about how you're gonna eat and stuff. Like you're getting along. I mean, granted, you need a logo to get started, but maybe you don't need like the top shelf logo yet. Maybe you could start with something simpler,
Yeah.
cost $100 or something online, and then get a real craftsman artisan to do it later.
Yeah, so I guess my final thoughts on this. I mean, I just hope we gave out some pretty good advice here. I think,
Yeah, it's important to think about your
yeah,
finances
yeah.
for sure.
This podcasting thing is interesting because things that seem really obvious to me or you may not be so obvious to other people, and so
Right.
sometimes I feel like we may
Like
not
getting started.
be, talking about interesting stuff, but I think, just we have to kind
Hopefully,
of,
it's helpful. Yeah, some people will probably hear
yeah,
it. And I mean, I know getting started is you definitely have a
yeah.
lot of questions that maybe you can't get answered unless you sit down with another photographer and they really kind of explain some of this stuff to you.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, hopefully the this talk helped give you a base for just finances in general. And so when you watch this back, hopefully you get to the point where you can stop thinking about the finances so much and get back to the art. I feel
Yeah,
like
I feel like that's the total
yeah,
thing. Is like when you don't have money and you don't have like a plan like this to save the money, you're constantly worrying about money. But once you have like that safety net, you have a few months saved up, and you have a plan on how you're going to spend your money that comes in. You don't think about money. Like I spend very little time thinking about money and how it's coming in and where it's going to go because I
yeah,
have it planned out in such a way.
yeah, 100%.
You know,
At first,
it frees up more creativity and less time worrying. You know.
at first, it may seem like everything revolves around money, but after you get through that initial hump, then hopefully it becomes a little bit less about that, and then you
Yeah.
can enjoy taking more photos and
Right.
being an artist. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah.
Don't let finances
Well,
ruin
yeah.
your artist life.